encyclical letter, Dilexit Nos of the Holy Father Francis, on the human and divine love of the heart of Jesus Christ. 1. He loved us. St. Paul says of Christ in Romans 8 verse 37, in order to make us realize that nothing can ever separate us from that love in verse 39. Paul could say this with certainty because Jesus himself had told his disciples, I have loved you. John 15 verses 9 and 12. Even now the Lord says to us, I have called you friends. John 15:15. His open heart has gone before us and waits for us unconditionally, asking only to offer us his love and friendship. For he loved us first. 1 John 4:10. Because of Jesus, we have come to know and believe in the love that God has for us. 1 John 4:16. Chapter 1. The importance of the heart. The symbol of the heart has often been used to express the love of Jesus Christ. Some have questioned whether this symbol is still meaningful today. Yet living as we do in an age of superficiality, rushing frenetically from one thing to another without really knowing why, and ending up as insatiable consumers and slaves to the mechanisms of a market unconcerned about the deeper meaning of our lives, all of us need to rediscover the importance of the heart. What do we mean by the heart? In classical Greek, the word cardia denotes the inmost part of human beings, animals, and plants. For Homer, it indicates not only the center of the body, but also the human soul and spirit. In the Iliad, thoughts and feelings proceed from the heart and are closely bound one to another. The heart appears as the locus of desire and the place where important decisions take shape. In Plato, the heart serves, as it were, to unite the rational and instinctive aspects of the person, since the impulses of both the higher faculties and the passions were thought to pass through the veins that converge in the heart. From ancient times, then, there has been an appreciation of the fact that human beings are not simply a sum of different skills, but a unity of body and soul, with a coordinating center that provides a backdrop of meaning and direction to all that a person experiences. The Bible tells us that the Word of God is living and active. It is able to judge the thoughts and intentions of the heart. Hebrews 4:12. In this way, it speaks to us of the heart as a core that lies hidden beneath all outward appearances, even beneath the superficial thoughts that can lead us astray. The disciples of Emmaus, on their mysterious journey in the company of the risen Christ, experienced a moment of anguish, confusion, despair, and disappointment. Yet beyond and in spite of this, something was happening deep within them. Were not our hearts burning within us while he was talking to us on the road? Luke 24:32. The heart is also the locus of sincerity, where deceit and disguise have no place. It usually indicates our true intentions, what we really think, believe, and desire, the secrets that we tell no one. In a word, the naked truth about ourselves. It is the part of us that is neither appearance or illusion, but is instead authentic, real, entirely who we are. That is why Samson, who kept from Delilah the secret of his strength, was asked by her, how can you say, I love you, when your heart is not with me? Judges 16:15. Only when Samson opened his heart to her did she realize that he had told her his whole secret. Judges 16:18. This interior reality of each person is frequently concealed behind a great deal of foliage, which makes it difficult for us not only to understand ourselves, but even more to know others. The heart is devious above all else. It is perverse. Who can understand it? Jeremiah 17:9. We can understand, then, the advice of the book of Proverbs. Keep your heart with all vigilance, for from it flow the springs of life. Put away from you crooked speech. Mere appearances, dishonesty, and deception harm and pervert the heart. Despite our every attempt to appear as something we are not, our heart is the ultimate judge, not of what we show or hide from others, but of who we truly are. It is the basis for any sound life project. Nothing worthwhile can be undertaken apart from the heart. False appearances and untruths ultimately leave us empty-handed. As an illustration of this, I would repeat a story I have already told on another occasion. For the carnival, when we were children, my grandmother would make a pastry using a very thin batter. When she dropped the strips of batter into the oil, they would expand. But then, when we bit into them, they were empty inside. In the dialect we spoke, those cookies were called lies. My grandmother explained why. Like lies, they look big, but are empty inside. They are false, unreal. Instead of running after superficial satisfactions and playing a role for the benefit of others, we would do better to think about the really important questions in life. Who am I really? What am I looking for? What direction do I want to give to my life, my decisions and my actions? Why and for what purpose am I in this world? How do I want to look back on my life once it ends? What meaning do I want to give to all my experiences? Who do I want to be for others? Who am I for God? All these questions lead us back to the heart. Returning to the heart. In this liquid world of ours, we need to start speaking once more about the heart and thinking about this place where every person, of every class and condition, creates a synthesis, where they encounter the radical source of their strengths, convictions, passions, and decisions. Yet we find ourselves immersed in societies of serial consumers who live from day to day, dominated by the hectic pace and bombarded by technology, lacking in the patience needed to engage in the processes that an interior life by its very nature requires. In contemporary society, people risk losing their center, the center of their very selves. Indeed, the men and women of our time often find themselves confused and torn apart, almost bereft of an inner principle that can create unity and harmony in their lives and actions. Models of behavior that, sadly, are now widespread exaggerate our rational technological dimension or, on the contrary, that of our instincts. No room is left for the heart. The issues raised by today's liquid society are much discussed, but this depreciation of the deep core of our humanity, the heart, has a much longer history. We find it already present in Hellenic and pre-Christian rationalism, in post-Christian idealism, and in materialism in its various guises. The heart has been ignored in anthropology, and the great philosophical tradition finds it a foreign notion, preferring other concepts such as reason, will, or freedom. The very meaning of the term is imprecise and hard to situate within our human experience. Perhaps this is due to the difficulty of treating it as a clear and distinct idea, or because it entails the question of self-understanding, where the deepest part of us is also that which is least known. Even encountering others does not necessarily prove to be a way of encountering ourselves, inasmuch as our thought patterns are dominated by an unhealthy individualism. Many people feel safer constructing their systems of thought in the more readily controllable domain of intelligence and will. The failure to make room for the heart, as distinct from our human powers and passions viewed in isolation from one another, has resulted in a stunting of the idea of a personal center, in which love, in the end, is the one reality that can unify all the others. If we devalue the heart, we also devalue what it means to speak from the heart, to act with the heart, to cultivate and heal the heart. If we fail to appreciate the specificity of the heart, we miss the messages that the mind alone cannot communicate. We miss out on the richness of our encounters with others. We miss out on poetry. We also lose track of history and our own past, since our real personal history is built with the heart. At the end of our lives, that alone will matter. It must be said then that we have a heart that coexists with other hearts that help to make it a thou. Since we cannot develop this theme at length, we will take a character from one of Dostoevsky's novels, Nikolai Stavrogin. Romano Guardini argues that Stavrogin is the very embodiment of evil, because his chief trait is his heartlessness. Stavrogin has no heart, hence his mind is cold and empty, and his body sunken in bestial sloth and sensuality. He has no heart, hence he can draw close to no one, and no one can ever truly draw close to him. For only the heart creates intimacy, true closeness between two persons. Only the heart is able to welcome and offer hospitality. Intimacy is the proper activity in the domain of the heart. Stavrogin is always infinitely distant, even from himself, because a man can enter into himself only with the heart, not with the mind. It is not in a man's power to enter into his own interiority with the mind. Hence, if the heart is not alive, man remains a stranger to himself. All our actions need to be put under the political rule of the heart. In this way, our aggressiveness and obsessive desires will find rest in the greater good that the heart proposes and in the power of the heart to resist evil. The mind and the will are put at the service of the greater good by sensing and savoring truths, rather than seeking to master them as the sciences tend to do. The will desires the greater good that the heart recognizes, while the imagination and emotions are themselves guided by the beating of the heart. It could be said then that I am my heart, for my heart is what sets me apart, shapes my spiritual identity, and puts me in communion with other people. The algorithms operating in the digital world show that our thoughts and will are much more uniform than we had previously thought. They are easily predictable and thus capable of being manipulated. That is not the case with the heart. The word heart proves its value for philosophy and theology in their efforts to reach an integral synthesis, nor can its meaning be exhausted by biology, psychology, anthropology, or any other science. It is one of those primordial words that describe realities belonging to man precisely in so far as he is one whole, as a corporeo-spiritual person. Kalkuren. It follows that biologists are not being more realistic when they discuss the heart, since they see only one aspect of it. The whole is not less real, but even more real. Nor can abstract language ever acquire the same concrete and integrative meaning. The word heart evokes the inmost core of our person, and thus it enables us to understand ourselves in our integrity and not merely under one isolated aspect. This unique power of the heart also helps us to understand why, when we grasp a reality with our heart, we know it better and more fully. This inevitably leads us to the love of which the heart is capable, for the inmost core of reality is love. For Heidegger, as interpreted by one contemporary thinker, philosophy does not begin with a simple concept or certainty, but with a shock. Thought must be provoked before it begins to work with concepts or while it works with them. Without deep emotion, thought cannot begin. The first mental image would thus be goosebumps. What first stirs one to think and question is deep emotion. Philosophy always takes place in a basic mood, Stimmung. That is where the heart comes in, since it houses the states of mind and functions as a keeper of the state of mind. The heart listens in a non-metaphoric way to the silent voice of being, allowing itself to be tempered and determined by it.